Yo, what's good people? So I have some Ascended X23 gameplay here. Now I'm going to go over the pros and cons with her because I think she's an okay champion. However, I do think she will be the worst champion out of all the new Banquet champions. You know, Hulkling, Absman, Kingpin, Jane Foster, all of them. I think she's going to be the worst champion out of those. That's not to say she's bad whatsoever. However, she's mainly targeted towards taking skill defenders, and we already have plenty of options for those. Here she is in an ideal matchup against Cheetah. Now keep in mind, in this showcase, I am using a Ascended X23 against 7-star rank 4 level defenders. I will get a 7-star X23 showcase out there as well, once I am allowed to, once the embargo is lifted. But that was a 6-star taking down a 7-star rank 4 Cheetah in 47 seconds, which is very solid. I do think she will be a phenomenal counter to many meta skill defenders, most skill defenders, apart from Lumitrix, because the way X23 works is, of course, most of her damage comes from bleed. If the opponent is immune to bleed, however, she will apply rupture instead. That rupture does deal 30% less damage though. However, Lumitrix is immune to both bleed and rupture, so don't try and use X23 against him. She will be a fantastic Bullseye counter because she is 90% bleed resistance, and she does have access to a pursuit passive which lasts 8 seconds against skill champions, but it only lasts 4 seconds against champions outside of the skill class. How you get access to this pursuit is by either intercepting or punishing the opponent's special attacks. So you can see here we're going crazy on Bullseye, and that was a 1:07 fight, which is not bad at all. I'm assuming as a 7-star this fight can probably be done in around 45 seconds, and she's a great counter to Yelena. So the rotation with X23 is she has this frenzy mechanic. Basically, she gains frenzy charges whenever she attacks the opponents or dexes the opponent's special attacks, and of course Yelena has a lot of hits in her special attacks to dex, so this just ramps up X23 insanely quickly. So even though she does not have access to Daunted, she will be a phenomenal Yelena counter. Once you get to 100 frenzy, if you end your combo in a light attack, then you will inflict a passive stun onto the opponent, and you can basically spam light attacks super quick. If any of you have played Quicksilver before and you've used Quicksilver special 3 where he can do basically the same thing, you know how this works. Basically it just slows down time while this stun is active, and you can land a bazillion light attacks. But what I'm not a fan of here is, unlike Quicksilver, when this stun is active, you do not reduce the opponent's combat power rate, so it is super easy to push them to 3 bars of power. So in a battleground scenario, you are definitely going to want to make sure you are going to KO the opponent when you activate that frenzy stun, otherwise you're probably going to eat a fat special 3, as I'm about to showcase in this fight, because I go for my frenzy a little too early here and I end up paying the price for it. The special attack you want to be using with X23 is the special 2, because this will grant you a vicious passive. Now, does she need awakening? I would say the awakening is quite important for her, because it does increase her vicious passive by up to 50% potency, so that is a lot more damage. What the vicious passive does is it just increases all your bleed, all your rupture damage. But not only that, when she is awakened against skill champions, once they have 5 or more bleeds or ruptures on them, she will inflict a marked passive. So this basically lets her cancel Nick Fury's second life. However, as I'm about to show you in the Nick Fury fight here, it's bugged at the moment. It doesn't work, and it is definitely supposed to cancel Nick Fury's second life, because this is the same exact thing which Danny Moonstar has, and it cancels Nick Fury's second life. However, for some reason, X23 has been released bugged, so at the moment she is not cancelling it. So I am going to put it in the CCP chat that she's bugged, and hopefully she gets fixed. I'm sure they'll fix her before Banquet, because yeah, they're gonna want the banquet money, boys. They're definitely gonna want that, so they're not going to want to release a bugged champion. But she is supposed to completely shut off Nick Fury. In general, X23 is a fantastic counter to most of the skill defenders in the game. However, outside of the skill class, she really doesn't have much utility to counter many other meta defenders. Like, for example, she's not going to be taking Onslaught, she's not going to be taking Serpent or Dark Phoenix, because she only gets that marked passive against skill defenders. She doesn't get it against any other class, so she can't cancel their immortality, for example. She just doesn't really have the utility or versatility to handle many defenders outside of the skill class. All she really has is the fact that, you know, bleed immunes don't really affect her because she can just apply ruptures instead. However, many defenders are like resistant to bleed, and if they're resistant to bleed, you're not going to get the rupture damage instead. It's still going to inflict bleeds and they'll still take no damage from it. Or like many defenders are like bleed resistant. So yeah, I think she's a good champion. However, I don't think many top tier battleground players will be running her in their deck. I think the only way she's really worth running is if you're just a fan of her playstyle, which, to be fair, she's very unique. I can imagine a lot of people finding her quite fun to play. So if you are a fan of her, she is good enough to get you some wins in battlegrounds. However, there are just much better options out there. Like, for example, Onslaught, Deadpool X-Force, Jean Grey, they can all take the same exact fights, which X23 can, but they can take far more. They're far better on defense, so there's no reason running X23 when those champions exist. So we're fighting some non-skill defenders here, and we take down this Destroyer pretty decently. However, of course, Destroyer, not really that meta of a defender. Like, you see him pop up here and there. However, like, he's just not that meta. I could not think of many defenders outside of the skill class which X23 would be good for. I thought this Absman here. Now, of course, Absman is bleed immune when in his Uru form, but that's where we're going to get ruptures in his Uru form, and then when we knock him out of it, we will get bleeds. So we should have the exact same damage as we normally have. However, this fight took ages, bro. This fight took like nearly 2 minutes. Probably Absman regeneration. Now, this is not me saying Absman is an insane defender whatsoever. Like, Absman, he's just an okay defender. Even as 6 stars, there are many attackers which can nuke him in a minute. But X23, yeah, she takes quite a while against this guy. As a 7 star, I mean, it'd probably be like a 1 minute fight, 1 minute 10. But as a 6 star, yeah, this fight really disappointed me. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. I think she's just alright, you know, she's good enough. She's a solid champion to have. However, for the high tier battlegrounds players, I don't think many people are going to run her whatsoever. If you are enjoying December to Remember, please remember to support the channel, because this is taking a lot of work, uploading multiple videos a day while I was working a job. Like, I am tired, bro. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.